My name is Lauren Crawford, and I'm pretty sure that I'm here to welcome you to today's senior speech. In fact, I'm confident that you are all here to be enlightened by our speaker, Charles Connell. You are gathered, perhaps a little perplexed, in the lovely Whole Fine Arts Theater, and so I wish to offer a warm welcome to Charles's parents, Christy and Scott Connell, as well as Charles's more clear-headed younger brothers, Sam and Benji. We also extend a warm welcome to Charles's uncle and aunt, Thomas and Donna Burnside. Now, Charles is supported by his friends and classmates, obviously, but in particular by Adrian, who fortunately knows exactly where he is supposed to be right now. Charles joined the prep community in the 9th grade. He was a rather distracted young man in my daily study hall, often choosing less rigorous activities than actual homework. We came to an understanding, and Charles applied himself more dutifully and witnessed a significant improvement in his overall grades and understanding of the material. I like to think it all started there, in that freshman year study hall. After that, Charles utilized more resources to help him navigate Augusta Prep's academic, social, and athletic spheres. He asked questions, he listened in class, he kept a planner. As Charles grew more organized, he participated in more sports and activities. He has played football, baseball, and basketball all 4 years. He has been a member of FCS since 9th grade, and this year he joined the debate club. He founded the 3v3 club, and he became the VP of HEC. In his spare time, Charles is a cotillion lead, sings with Love Unlimited Choir, participates in mission work through his church, and occasionally practices piano. What you might not know about Charles is his deep and abiding passion for all things Star Wars. He may be only the second or third person I know who has read all the accompanying books in the Star Wars canon. Seems sort of like Charles has his head on straight, no? Charles, however, says he often feels confused, so he decided to dig into this feeling and come up with some answers to his many questions. And boy, does he have a lot of questions. So let us all find enlightenment as we welcome Charles to the stage.
Before we begin, I would first like to thank Senior Crawford for the introduction and the 3 years she has been my advisor, which I know is challenging at some points, especially when it comes to the speech. Also shout out to Tanner, Loose the Goose, and Elijah, who all owe me money now. And happy birthday, Porno. Finally, I want to thank my mom and dad for helping lawyerify my speech, as well as for raising me and all that fun stuff. For those of you who know me well, you probably know that I'm someone who, without fail, is always confused. Whether it be the simplest instruction or the hardest task, I always seem to be using my 4 favorite phrases. What, or what the, followed by words I would rather not say with my parents here. For example, this past summer, I had a problem with the SAT. I couldn't get my scores. Mr. Stroud couldn't get my scores, and so I had to have a long conversation on the phone with College Board due to the fact that I spelled my first name, Christopher, wrong. I'm not used to writing Christopher. I sometimes forget it's even my first name. But no one, and I mean no one, as confused as this young man right here, Adrian. Adrian is a young lad who's famous for his confusing quotes, such as, 8 with an AK, bra-ta-ta. I want to go to the Grand Canyon so I can feel small. And my personal favorite prep memory, Mr. Mims, I need to leave, I'm sorry. My dogs are in their cage and the AC is going out, and they're going to die. But why do people like Adrian and me have such a hard time processing information? According to the U.S. Library of Medicine, confusion is caused primarily by factors such as alcohol consumption, concussions, fever, lack of sleep, and medicines. And no, Mr. Jives, those are not my Saturday plans. Seriously though, Adrian and I do have none of these factors besides taking medication, none of which are known to cause confusion when taken as prescribed. So again, I was back to the square one when it comes to confusion. Or in other words, I was confused about confusion, as confusing as that sounds. Finally, my big idea struck me while watching Game of Thrones at 2 a.m. one night. There are different types of confusion. Have you ever been sitting in class and simply just can't keep your eyes open or just feel in a daze? This is hyperactive confusion, defined by the American Society on Clinical Oncology as, quote, low activity, acting sleepy or withdrawn or out of it. In contrast, have you ever been so mad and frustrated that just nothing makes sense, or so stressed out about your AP Psych test that you can't even understand how to calculate the mean? That is hyperactive confusion, defined by the clinic as, quote, high activity, acting upset, nervous, and agitated, end quote. One can also have a mixture of both hyperactive and hypoactive, which I would compare to being so tired and stressed that you just give up on creating any productive thoughts and go to sleep. After discovering these confusing scientific terms about confusion, and also learning about cognitive psychology with Mr. Stroud, I thought there had to be some factors of cognitive ability when it comes to being confused, and turns out I was right. In the field of neuroscience, confusion has a more fancy name, delirium. Delirium is defined by Merriam-Webster as, quote, an acute mental disturbance characterized by confused thinking and disruptive attention, usually accompanied by disordered speech and hallucinations, end quote. This delirium, along with dementia, is the most common sign of cognitive impairment, which the CDC defines as, quote, when a person has trouble remembering, learning new things, concentrating, or making decisions that affect their everyday life, end quote. Now, by now, I know what all of you are thinking. How the heck did he get from ape with an AK to dementia? As it turns out, confusion, which remember we're now calling delirium, and dementia are two very similar but separate disorders and both very hard to distinguish from each other. This distinction is a very important one to be made, as dementia is a serious disease that kills people, and if caught early enough, there is always hope for a prolonged life with treatment and care, but sadly there's no cure. The first and foremost way to distinguish the two is the onset of the disorders. Delirium tends to be sudden and quick, coming in quick bursts like the majority of us have. But if you notice that you seem to be slowly getting more and more out of it or forgetting things more and more over a long span of time, then you should probably begin to look for signs of dementia. Another way to distinguish delirium from dementia is that, according to the Merrick Manual, the world's top-selling medical book, is that delirium tends to affect attention and retention more, but dementia targets memories already made. But there are ways to counter both delirium and dementia. In studies done by a variety of sources such as Harvard University and Michigan State University, and compiled in an article by Psychology Today, increasing cognitive function is the best way to prevent dementia and delirium. The article also describes 7 ways to best increase cognitive function, first being physical activity. A study done by Harvard Medical School shows a specific molecule called irisin is released during endurance exercises that improves cognition and helps to protect the brain against deterioration. The second way to increase cognitive performance is by openness to experience. When trying something that is unfamiliar and mentally challenging, you increase your cognitive function by reaching your zone of enrichment, or your zone of betterment as a person. The third way is through creativity and curiosity. Neuroscientists have discovered that musical training improves the function and connectivity of different brain regions, greatly increasing cognitive function. Being engrossed in a book also increases connectivity in the brain regions. The next way is by having good social connections. A University of Chicago study done by John Capiccio found that loneliness triggers psychological and cognitive decline, as well as an increase in cortisol, or the hormone responsible for causing stress. The fifth is by the classic, mindful meditation. A Harvard study done by their medical center finds that meditation, which reduces stress, helps slow the regression of cognitive function. The sixth means by which to increase cognitive function is by brain-teasing games. A Tel Aviv University study found that by problem solving and being in situations where people have to multitask when doing some sort of challenge, it contributes to factors that prevent cognitive decline. The seventh is one that is obvious, but not often done, getting enough sleep. A study done by the University of California, San Francisco, found that poor sleep quality reduces the amount of gray matter in the brain, which is responsible for processes of working memory retention. Low gray matter in the brain also leads to a steep cognitive decline. The Mayo Clinic recommends that the average adult get 7 or more hours of sleep a night, minimum, for optimal cognitive ability. Despite all this research, I'm still confused. Adrian is still confused, and we are confused because that's our nature. We are the last to get the joke. I may or may not remember how to spell my name. And Adrian, his dogs are okay. Now everyone take a deep breath. It's over. No more information that half of you probably fell asleep or tuned out to. But now that I hopefully have all of your attention, if there's one thing I hope you could get from my speech, it's this. Whether you're like me and can't even spell your name right, or like Adrian, who says things only God can understand, remember this. Stay true to yourself. Don't be confused about who you are. Because if there's one thing, or because if everyone in this room is beautiful on the inside and out, and that's one thing I'm not confused about. Thank you.